We finally have a new interview from Akio IYOKU going over the origins of Dragon Ball Daima, the inspiration, and how much Toriyama was involved. I don't want to waste too much time, but let's go ahead and jump into it. And keep in mind, this is coming through Google Translate, so things are going to be a little bit rough, but I'll go ahead and provide some extra context to his answers that'll make it make more sense. First, let's get up with the first question. Why is a new TV series being started? IYOKU explained, this story goes back about 6 years ago, but when we were making Dragon Ball Super Superhero, we started wanting to do a new series with a different plot from the movie. We were making the movie, and in order to not burden you, I wanted you to just take a look at it rather than having you make it in full. So I asked you what you thought. As we went along, you became very enthusiastic about it. It was different from the original plan, but after consulting with you, we ended up having you make most of it. Now keep in mind, whenever he's saying you, for some reason he's also saying Toriyama. I don't know if this is Google Translate having a bug or if that's just the way Japanese language is structured, but basically what he's saying is that he approached Toriyama just to consult on the project and Toriyama basically took over, which makes sense. Toriyama came up with ideas such as what kind of place is the Great Demon World, who are the new characters, and the world of Daima was solidified. IYOKU goes on to say, it was the first time for me to make a series from scratch like this, so I think it was interesting from the teacher's perspective. It's longer than a movie and we spent a lot of time going back and forth about the story. Production on the anime started before the story was completely finished. That's how much I was racking my brains over it. Maybe that's why it has the same kind of thrill as a weekly serialized manga. Now that's an interesting quote. A lot of people are saying this means Dragon Ball Daima was rushed in terms of story. Obviously it wasn't rushed in terms of animation because it looks so gorgeous. So I guess you can go ahead and take this quote however you want to take it. To be specific, it says, in fact, production on the anime started before the story was completely finished. So you can go ahead and take that answer however you will. He goes on to say that it's actually an anime that parents and children can enjoy together. He says, I was conscious of the generation in their early 30s and older who have grown up and have children. I wanted to make an anime that parents and children could watch together. They are the generation that watched Dragon Ball GT as children. That's right, he just said that. I was conscious of that, and my attempt to create a new anime series like GT became the starting point. Step into the grand tour of Dragon Ball GT! Isn't that interesting? So a lot of people were complaining whenever some comparisons to GT were being made, and literally IYOKU says it is literally GT as his starting point. That's interesting. A big theme of this work is to have a wider audience, and although this is hindsight, I feel that by making Goku smaller, the entry point has become wider. I never thought that everyone would be small, but of course it was Toriyama's idea, which is of course something that I think we heard from, but it's really cool that Toriyama decided, you know what, make them all kids this time, just so it's not an exact clone of GT. IYOKU says GT means Grand Touring, and we are trying to depict an adventure in Daima as well. It will have a different flow from Super, where Goku steadily improves his strength. Even though Goku's small, the sight of him fighting by leaps and bounds with his Nyoyobo stick still looks fresh, and it will be a different appeal from Super, which I think I've been saying that it definitely feels different from Super. This next quote is funny. He actually says that Toriyama said there might be some people who don't know the story so far about collecting Dragon Balls and facing strong enemies. So he made it so that even people who are watching it for the first time can understand it. He also tried to show Goku's strength and make it easy to understand that he has become smaller. So he's basically saying there's a lot of people out there who haven't even experienced the original story of Dragon Ball, and so they think that Dragon Ball always has to be about, fighting and powering up and stuff. He's saying that Toriyama and him talked about how there's some people that don't even know that collecting the Dragon Balls is an actual full focus of the series at one point. And of course he says, although he made it to be enjoyable for children, he said he didn't make it childish. Of course I had to properly express the appeal of the characters in the story. I wanted parents to watch it with their children, so I tried to pay attention to the image. It's an excellent balance that can be enjoyed by both adults and children. That's another answer for you guys there who said that it was a kid's show. It's not necessarily a kid's show, it's more like a family show. As far as Dragon Ball Daima being connected to Dragon Ball at large, IYOKU says it's true that the author himself is in charge of the story. It's a continuation and it's connected to the Buu saga. That is the fact, and that is all there is to it. I'm sure you're wondering where Daima fits in the Dragon Ball series, but I'm trying to show the various connections to Dragon Ball. Even if we don't know about it, I think there are connections in Toriyama's mind, and I'm not aiming for that, but I'm trying to show that as well. The part that blew me away the most was that all those with pointy ears are residents of the Great Demon Realm. I think that's a setting that the sensei had vaguely had in his mind for a while, and I was surprised to find out that's the case. The sensei has a firm grasp on the world of Dragon Ball, and he changes the focus depending on the work. He's not forcing settings in. The twists and turns are important, and since the anime began without the original manga, I'm very conscious of having the kind of pull-up that you get in the manga. Daima is trying to create an unprecedented anime series. Because we've been going for so long, we don't make huge mistakes, but if we keep doing the same thing, people will get bored. It's difficult to find the right balance. It's something we've ended up doing up until now, but while it's difficult to change everything in order to guarantee the image that everyone has in mind, we also need to continue taking on new challenges, which I think is true. The last bit of the interview actually goes over the future of Dragon Ball. IYOKU says we weren't sure how much of a response it would get, but we were thinking about a simultaneous worldwide release with an eye towards streaming. This actually is in line with a lot of the rumors we got about this being a streaming anime. IYOKU just goes out and says it. I feel like this work is perceived differently depending on the country and region. It's basically seen as an anime work, but in some countries and regions, Dragon Ball is placed on the same level as live-action dramas, so we're also concerned about how to present it in that context. We're not just thinking about it within the framework of anime, we have to fully be aware that it's a work that is so widely accepted, we have to change our preconceived notions every time, but I feel like we won't know until we actually try it. He says anime and games can't be made quickly, it takes time. We're trying to develop it properly while preparing. We want to expand it even further. There are action scenes that will fully meet everyone's expectations. The climax battle is absolutely amazing. There are parts of the stories that you can imagine and parts that you can't, but maybe it will turn out that way and maybe it won't. I'm sure you'll be like, wow. If you watch it from the beginning, I'm sure you'll enjoy it even more. So there you go, a little bit of an IYOKU interview with him teasing Daima a little bit at the end. What did you guys think of this interview? A lot of people have a lot to say about it. Some people are rather upset about it, and I think some people are kind of overreacting a bit. I enjoyed this little kind of behind the scenes peek at how involved he was and how involved Toriyama was, in fact. And I thought it was very illuminating. It was very enlightening. So yeah, GT did have a lot to play into this story after all. And not only that, but Toriyama was like, hey, if you're working on this, I'm going to take it over. And he basically just threw all this lore in about the Demon Realm, which is cool. Anyways, guys, that will be it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to keep up to date with all things Dragon Ball news and commentary. And I will see you in the next one. Peace off.